welcome to another exciting Eventide Tuesday stream. I always call them exciting. They're not always exciting. I guess some are a bit more straightforward than others, but this one I actually think is kind of exciting, because today we are going to talk about Eventide in the Pathfinder Remaster. That's right, the time has finally come. The remaster officially drops at midnight or in the morning or whatever. Suffice to say, a bunch of people have it already. Retailers are going to be able to put it on store shelves starting tomorrow. So I figured it's time for us to talk about the remaster and dig into what it means for Eventide and kind of what, in specific, I'm going to start doing to some of these classes, some of these rules, because I think the time is now. And some of these are going to be really straightforward. Like, I'm thinking that if all goes according to plan, I should be able to deliver the remastered Gloamling to all of you this week, because I actually think the Gloamling does not need a lot of work in general. I have yet to uncover my copies of the remaster. They're in a box here somewhere. I don't know where. They're in a box. The unpacking still continues, and I have yet to uncover my copies. I do have a full set. I just don't know where they are. I really should try and find them here sometime soon. But I do have all the PDFs and everything, so I can still reference the rules and stuff. So that's not going to be a problem. But what I can't do is flip open a book and hold it up and be like, yeah, look what I got. Can't do that. So, I think what I'm going to do here tonight, folks, is what I'd like to do is chat about Eventide as far as how it relates to the remaster. I'm actually going to use this as an opportunity to, frankly, do a little bit of note-taking, because some of these, it's not that I haven't, like, you know, it's not that I don't know. Come here, you. What is going on with that? Okay, that's a problem. All right, I'll just open that again. That's really weird. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Just wanted it separate. Okay. So, yeah, what I'm going to do here today is open up the Gloamling, and why don't we just hop right into it? So, obviously, the remaster has brought with it a lot of changes to the game. That said, most of them are relatively cosmetic. And unless I played with them directly or built things off of them, they're not really going to have too big of an impact on what I'm doing in Eventide. But there are some things that are going to need to change. So I'm going to show you just how slight some of these things are. Let me see if... Let's see. Let me grab that. We'll go ahead and turn this on, see what it looks like. Okay, so that's clearly not the right size. But I can fix that. There we are. There we go. So I'm going to take it here. I'm just going to drop it behind the webcam so that I can kind of chat and show you what I'm working on here. As a matter of fact, while I'm at it... Oh, I'm still here. Sorry, folks. Let me move myself over. There we go. I can figure it out eventually. Okay. So, here we have the Gloamling PDF. I think ancestries, by and large, don't change. So, you know, let me get back to... Let me zoom to height here. So, I don't really think much about this changes. Obviously, nothing changes here. When we get into this basic kind of description area, we're talking about, you know, its description, society, beliefs. You know, frankly, this stuff isn't exactly 100% standard. This isn't what exactly they do in Pathfinder. I do think that in beliefs, they tend to do edicts and anathema as part of beliefs, and sample names are now part of society. I didn't really do alignment sections in here before, nor did I do sample names, but I'm going to put a note in here because I do think it's pretty useful. So I'm going to go ahead and add a note here just to the end. Tiny note. And sorry, you can't really see this note because I'm typing it in a weird spot. But I'm going to add a note here that says, talk about edicts and anathema. We'll go ahead and post that in there. All right. There we go. No. Cancel. Okay. So we now have a note there about possibly adding something like that. Now let's take a look here at the features of the Gloamling. By and large, I don't think any of these really need to change. Rarity doesn't need to change. Hit points doesn't need to change. Size doesn't need to change. Speed doesn't need to change. This needs to be changed from ability boost to change to attribute. Close that out. And I'll let that carry through to ability flaw as well. Languages, I don't believe these need to change at all. Traits don't need to change at all. Monochromatism and dark vision, I don't believe need to change at all. So, not much there. Not much there at all. Let's see. Let's get down into heritages. Gloamling here. Gloamling heritages gives you better dark vision. Again, none of this changed. Broadfoot. Let's see. You gain a +2 circumstance bonus on acrobatics checks made to balance, and your reflex saves against attempts to trick you. This doesn't talk about being flat-footed, so no change there. Long finger gives you a bonus on thievery checks to steal and on reflex DCs made against checks to disarm you. That, again, does not change. And then the next one gives you thick hide. Again, none of this changes, so the remaster doesn't affect any of this at all. I think I am going to see some changes here in the ancestry feats. So not too many, but there'll be some. There's Gloamling Bond. Let's see. Form a bond with one creature. Medicine checks to treat. Perform checks to entertain. Yeah. No. Oh! There it is. Found one. I found a flat-footed. Changed it off guard. Okay, let's see what else we find. Plus 1 circumstance bonus on its emotion effects, that's fine. Fatigued, it's also fine. Yep, nothing there. Gloamling weapon familiarity. Now this is an area that is very interesting. So, if you look at the weapon familiarity feats in the remaster, they are different now. So they used to be like, oh, okay, you are trained with a bunch of weapons. You also gain access to uncommon weapons of your ancestry. And you treat weapons of those ancestry as one category less complex. So martial to simple, advanced to martial. The way they work now, so if you look at, say, like halfling weapon familiarity, you gain access to all uncommon weapons with the halfling trait. You have familiarity with weapons of the halfling trait plus other weapons. For the purposes of proficiency, you treat any of them that are martial weapons as simple and any that are advanced as martial. So far, so good. But then it also says whenever at 5th level, whenever you get a critical hit with one of these weapons, you get the critical specialization effect. So they bundled in we bundled in the more advanced version of the feat. So for this, I'm just going to put a general note here that just says update to match remaster standards. Because all of them changed in this way to simplify them and made sure that they play better with other changes to some of the classes that increase your proficiency and stuff so that these weapons don't get left behind. Let's see. Insatiable curiosity messes with the fascinated condition. I don't think there's any change there. Change to the confused condition really doesn't make any difference. Alright, occult mysteries, no changes there. Quiet steps. Gain a feat. Yeah, no changes there. And then Shade Sight, I doubt there's any changes here. No. So, Gloamling Weapon Trickery. This just gets cut. Cut and replace. With what? I'm not sure yet. But I know it has to go, and I know it needs to be replaced by something else. Shadow Friend gives you a Shadow Familiar. There's a cool rulebook reference in here. Gotta change that reference. Rest of that's probably fine. Darkness, Grim Tendrils, that's probably fine. Restored in Shadow is fine. And then I believe the higher level ones went as well. I'm trying to figure that out. Hold on here. Let me look at Goblin. So yeah, Gloamling Weapon expertise probably needs to go as well. All of those kind of weapon feat trees got greatly simplified in the remaster because we found that they just didn't do the work we wanted them to do. And frankly, we wanted the ancestries to have kind of cooler abilities. So, those are all gone, which means I need to find new things to put in their place. So, believe it or not, folks, that's it, right? Now, I'll need to make sure that this, you know... Oop. Add the orc license. Yeah, we'll just put that there. And oddly enough, this does not have the OGL attached to it. What's up with that? Did I mess that up? Oh yeah, this isn't the full version. Okay. Alright, so yeah, the full version, this is an earlier draft. So the full version had the OGL at the front and a TOC in it as well. So that's kind of it, right? So as far as okay. So as far as changes are concerned, right? That's it. There really isn't any more changes. And if you look at it, the scope of those changes are mostly inconsequential, right? There's a couple feats that are going to go. There's a few terms that need to change. But the feats will be replaced by something cooler, more interesting than just like, here you get a weapon that's slightly better. And adding anathema certainly isn't going to hurt anything. So yeah, that's it. That's all that'll need to happen, and then this is remastered, right? So I do think it's easy to approach the remaster as if there are these broad sweeping changes, but in reality, unless you're touching alignment or spell schools, most of the other changes are pretty small. Now, there might be things in which, you know, I'm looking at it here, and Darkness and Grim Tendrils are both spells that are in the remaster, so I don't have to worry about those. But if, you know, I had a, you know, an ability that gave me, you know, Magic Missile, I'd have to rename it to Force Barrage. Or if, you know, it gave Glitter Dust, I'd have to replace it with some other spell. And when it comes to looking at some of those spells, we definitely tried to make sure that there was some sort of interesting equivalent replacement that was uniquely ours. That wasn't just, you know, here's the same effect with a slightly different name. So that is the Gloamling. That's it. I don't really have much else to say there. That's how I'm going to remaster it. So as you can see, all I have to do is write a couple of feats, change a handful of things, and swap out the license, and I'm done. This may even cut a whole page off of the final version, because the final version has the OGL as the last page, and I'm pretty sure the Orc license is like this big, total. Because it references a site where the full license lives. It doesn't have to include the entire text in the document. We don't need to do that. So anything to save us some space. So there you go. Now, that said, I think the Penumbrist is a bit more complicated. So let me see here. Trying to see if I have a Penumbrist in a shape that I can look at it easily. Maybe this? Is this the one I was making comments on? No. Sorry, I'm trying to find the Penumbrist. Where is it? Here we are. Okay. So this is my draft with all of my notes in it up to this point. But I think we're going to go ahead and add some more. Because I still have changes I need to make from before. I may wrap those into the... I've got some notes in there I just noticed about the Gloamling. So I may go through and make sure that those are reflected, and we'll get kind of closer to a final version. Use it to iterate across the board. Now, the Penumbrist is going to be quite a bit more complicated. I think that this class does have a few things that touch on some of the rules that got remastered in a way that is going to want to make me reevaluate them. So... yeah, we already went through this class and made some notes. Those notes are not yet reflected here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add notes that are specifically talking to the remaster here today. So, go ahead and grab my note comment. So obviously this needs to be attribute boost. Just going to put it as attribute. That's fine. Initial proficiencies, if I go down the list here, train, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine. Skills, I know I'm already doing something with that because I got a bit too many in here. Trained in simple weapons and unarmed attacks, trained in that, trained in that. Okay. There may be a little bit of changes that happen to spells. I'm going to put a note here to say check versus other spellcasters, because their proficiency's got a little simplified, and I'm spacing on what it is right at the moment. But that should make life a little easier on their front. Okay. Okay, so looking here, there's a little bit of standardization that needs to happen. If I look at... come down and take a peek at... where am I heading? Is this Ranger? Alright. So, one thing I noticed is we now spell out attribute boosts. We used to have those in a different spot. They're now spelled out in the class itself. That's fine. Initial proficiencies are still spelled out the way they are. Okay. I think spellcasting is mostly going to be fine. But all the references to first level spells now need to refer to first rank. For all, I'll just put that note in there once. So, classes don't currently have Edict and Anathema baked into them, necessarily. Some classes do have that. I'm a little non-standard here on the entry anyway, because I don't have a kind of flavor write-up for the Penumbrist, so I'm actually going to add that. Currently, the Penumbrist is missing all of that kind of stuff. It should come between kind of the intro bit here and the flavor. So we'll go ahead and put a note to add that stuff in there. We'll call that part of the remaster upgrade. Let's see. Beyond that, we get into heightened spells and cantrips. Most of this is not really changing. Again, I'll want to go through all the spellcasting stuff and compare it to the standards now. Don't think there's much in there that I have to worry about too much other than some terminology changes. But I do know this. Focus spells across the board saw a change. And that change... I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. Is that they can now regain all of their focus spells instead of just one at a time. So, Titan spell, spellbook. Sorry. I suppose I should look at somebody who actually gets focus spells automatically. Okay. No. So, update focus spells to Remaster Standard. Shouldn't be too hard. Okay. Still gets blessed by Shadow. I don't think anything in there is affected. No. Now, Shadow Motes did get a revision here recently. So I may skip some of this because I think this text here is old, actually. Yeah, this is definitely an old version. Let me check and make sure I'm not working off something particularly out of date. 7, 11. This is the most recent one I have in this folder. Sorry, I'm just checking a thing here. Show all markup. Okay. So, not in there either. Alright, well, that's fine. I'll find it. So the moats now grow a little differently than they used to, but I don't think that's going to matter to the remaster. So I think we're good on that front. Alright. Let's go ahead and take a look here. We'll need to update table. Not a big deal, but it is the new standard. The rest of that's fine. Then we get into feats and skill feats and general feats. I don't think any of this changes, although I do think we moved away from having standardized names. Possibly. Or we went standardized across the board. I forget which direction we went. Sometimes this stuff gets away from me. So let me see. Magical feeder, reflex expertise. Wizard kit. Okay. So some of these names got a bit standardized. So generally speaking, lightning reflexes would now be changed to like reflex expertise. Because multiple classes now get that, and they all get it, and it has the same name. That way, it's frankly a little easier to parse. We had different names on some of the classes, and the same name on other classes, and it just didn't make sense. So, we're not doing that. Skill increases doesn't really change. Attribute. Just going to put that note there, because that changes from ability to attribute. Do that throughout. Ancestry feats. Let's see. So a lot of this is just naming changes, right? And that's the thing about the remaster. It can scare you into thinking it's bigger than it is. It really isn't. Some of this stuff is just literally name changes to get things to be more standard so that a new player doesn't get quite as lost when they see the exact same ability twice, but it has a different name, right? Let's see here. I think this is now called Prodigious Will, depending on the class. I think so. Alright, we got armor expertise, spellcaster, yada yada yada. Okay. Alright, I think we're good on that front. There's a lot of name changes, but again, not anything substantive that has to change. I'll want to go through all of this and make sure that I've got it all standardized. Like, yeah, Master, Spellcaster, what is it, Expert Spellcaster? Yeah, okay, we just changed those names to be standardized. That should be fine. I think I got all that. No problem there. Alright. Yep, looks good. Alright, we've got a bunch of mode abilities. These have all been rewritten, so I'm not going to worry about those right Let's see if there's any aspects in here that I need to take into account. Flash out, no. Reach spell, no. Shadow familiar, no. Again, most of these probably don't need. So the thing is, this one didn't rely overly on schools. So as a class, it mostly relied on the occult delineation, not on school delineation. So I think I saved myself a lot of headache there. Trying to make sure. Yeah, I think dark humor's fine. Yeah, there's no reference in there. That demoralizes. That just attacks. Reach spell standard. Let's see. Plane of Shadow, which I think is fine. Corporeal is fine. So there's a bit in here talking about strength-based checks. I don't remember if we use that anymore. I think we might have gotten rid of it. May just be strength checks, or, you know, we don't need to say based anymore because we don't have an attribute versus a modifier. We can just say, you know, no. I'm going to delete that. I think that's still correct. Ooh, you know, one thing I should do a search for, though. Oh, I know this is in here. Let me see. This is the area where I think I've run into something that actually needs to change. Let me go back up here, because I'm pretty sure it's mentioned higher up in Motes is the first time we see it. So, when you cast a spell with the darkness, negative, shade, or shadow trait, motes of shadow swirl around you. I'm going to put a note here that says scrub negative from the class. With a note that says replace with void? Question mark. And the reason I'm putting a question mark there is because the one thing that I actually, and shadow motes no longer do this anyway, right? You now get a shadow mote every time you cast a penumbra spell, an occult spell. So it doesn't matter here, but I'm pretty sure there are some other spots where there are some things that rely on, did you cast a spell of a bunch of these types? And I think I had a band-aid approach here that was like, oh, it's darkness, or negative, or shadow, or shade, which is a trait I made up. That's all just a band-aid to, frankly, to cover up the fact that I didn't quite have the trait I wanted, and shadow wasn't on everything. Let's see, I got a question here. Do different ancestries have edicts and anathema and behavior traits considered to be common? Leaning of ancestry in general. Not sure I quite follow you, but most ancestries now just list common edicts and anathema for members of that ancestry. But they're not, it's not mandatory, it's not universal, it's just like, yeah, dwarves are loyal to members of their family and clan. That's just a thing that they do. Their allies, their family, whether chosen or not, they are fiercely loyal to them. That is just something that dwarves usually are. Not universal. Some can be traitorous, backstabbing bastards, but not all of them. Right? Most of them are loyal. So it's that sort of thing. And like humans, if I recall correctly, don't have any. It's like humans do not have. I'm gonna go check right now if I recall correctly. We didn't put any on human. Just like, yeah, humans, they're all over the place. I mean, I guess there is, like, explore the world, strive for greatness, devote yourself to a moral outlook. Popular anathema to waste what little time you have. But these are very generic, right? Whereas something like dwarf is, let's see here. Flew right past it. Book's too damn big. Whereas dwarf is, like, create art with utility. These are their edicts. Guard your community against those who would harm it. Keep your clan dagger close, right? Yeah, I mean, to say that, an anathema for dwarves is to forsake your family. That is something they generally don't do. Doesn't mean that they never do it. I actually think that's a lot more flavorful than to say that they're generally lawful or generally good. Like, that could mean a lot of things. Whereas to say they generally don't forsake their family. That means a lot. There's a lot loaded into that. As opposed to just saying, I don't know, they're nice to people. Usually. Maybe. Anyway. Okay. So, the negative trait has to go because we're ditching, we're removing that. Positive and negative have been replaced with vitality and void. I think it's vitality. I think it's vitality. I might be wrong. Now I want to look. I don't remember. Yeah, it's vitality. That's what I thought. I knew they both started with V. All right. No, cancel. Stop. All right. Let's get down here back to the feats. There's nothing there. Dim light is still a thing. Difficult terrain is still a thing. Cast a spell, yada yada yada. Widen the spell, yeah. Cantrip, conceal, enhance familiar, negative resistance. Obviously, this gets an update. Note, that's going to have to be changed to void resistance. Another void note. Again, I knew that's where this class was going to get hit. Mostly it's just in all these negative references. Second, no silence spell. So that's interesting. Well, first of all, let me just make sure I catch this. Metamagic as a term is gone. It's been replaced with spell shape, if I recall correctly. So I've got a couple of those that need to be replaced. Not a big deal, but still needs to happen. Make sure I don't miss them. Umbral tools. Yeah, that's fine. Umbral spell, focus spell, yeah. Focus spell, that's probably fine. Spawn shadow is undoubtedly fine. Yep. Steady spellcasting, I don't think went anywhere. Touch of shadow is another one that needs an update. Make sure we got that. Alright. Growling motes, laughing motes. I think all of these are getting updated in a different update that I'm still in process on, so no need to worry about that. Split shadow, I don't think I've got any problems there. Sorry, I'm just double checking a thing. Okay, that's all fine. Gloamling, endless tendrils. Oh, there's another meta magic that needs an update. Tiger, I'm not sure I follow you on that. The shift from nesting to progressing, even if it is slow. You'll have to explain that to me. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Let's see. Umbral, Shadow Body, Umbral spell. Always a moat. Yeah, no worries there. Dark Door. Teleportation. I'm going to put a note here to check. There might be a trait thing there that changed. I need to double check that. I forget. Slashing shadows, I think, is fine. Yeah. Oh, you mean in my house? Oh, yeah. No, it's progressing slowly. Actually, a lot of this room has actually changed a good deal in the past week. You can't see it because of the green screen and whatnot, but I may actually be shifting away from using a green screen. I may just use my background in my office behind me as it comes together and looks nice. Yeah, no, all right, I follow you. Let's see, dark focus. Oh, yeah, no, this is just a kill it. So I don't need this anymore because refocusing now allows you to get all of your focus points back. So there's no point in having a feat that allows you to kind of do it. So this just needs to be replaced. Nothing there. Nothing there. Nothing there. Effortless concentration. Sustain a spell action. That's going to need to be updated slightly. So there's a bit in here that basically says, effortless concentration says, you maintain a spell with hardly a thought. You immediately gain the effects of the sustain a spell action, allowing you to extend the duration of one of your active class spells. First of all, that's wonky terminology. But second, sustain is now a basic action. So I don't need to reference it in this way. Effortless concentration can still be a thing, but this references it in the old way, and now it's a basic action that I can reference instead. So that'll need a slight update. Umbral Mantle. Creatures can hold spirits. Oh, no, there's a flat-footed. I found one. I'll change that to an off guard. It's fine. The rest of it's fine. And then 20th level feats. It's starting to feel like this is mostly just a text cleanup. My remaster pass on the Penumbrist is going to take next to no time at all. I may have to rewrite a feat or two here and there, but frankly, I need to do that anyway. So, that's intended blah 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 blah. Whenever you stride, you may yada 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 yada, and that becomes rank, and that's kind of it. So that's the thing, right? For a class like the Penumbrist that doesn't rely on spell schools, that doesn't rely on alignment, the trickiest part is just scrubbing out negative, replacing it with void, and possibly condensing all of that into a cleaner term or rules definition. So I think for a fair number of these abilities, updating to the remaster is actually very simple. Now, I can get into some of this other stuff, but looking at the rest of this, Alchemist I'm not going to touch right now because the Alchemist is not part of Player Core. So I'm not going to remaster that right now. Bard is, and will need some work. Champion is not. Champion obviously has some pretty big problems that I'm sure you'll learn about soon. Cleric, again, this is an area where I'm going to have to do some work, but not too much. The Edicts and Anathema are already there. I'm just going to need to put a note in here that, you know, basically says update to remaster. You know, add devotion, remove alignments, and that's almost it, right? So like Astramari will require holy, whereas Sylvex will require unholy. You know, Sylara may allow, you know, holy or unholy. Valinav may allow holy and unholy. And Ermnagor may not allow holy or unholy. Ermnagor is like, you can't have either of those. You have to play them in the middle. So, Tiger Eyes, maybe. I have a bunch of examples to draw from because the remaster contains some of them. So, in some regards, like, understand that some of this work is done for me already because the remaster came up with solutions for the various spellcasting classes, and I will just, frankly, copy those solutions here because it's another spellcasting class. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel, right? If there's a standard that's used by all the classes, I'm just going to use that standard. So, you know, here's a bunch of stuff, right? You know, there might be some fighter feats that need a little bit of changing, but not much. Druid doesn't have to change for me because Druid isn't in Eventide. Cleric, obviously will have the deity changes. Monk isn't in the remaster. Ranger is. There's definitely some Ranger stuff I'll want to take into account. In particular, I'm going to want to look pretty closely at how some of the alchemy stuff is working and how some of that I have playing in Ranger to look at the Ranger remaster because it does have some changes to how some things work. Rogue will have the smallest of changes, most to do with changing flat-footed to off-guard here and there. Sorcerer is in Player Core 2. Wizard is going to need a little bit of work, but not too much from me. That's the thing. I'll need to create some spell schools. That's what I need to do. That's the big thing I want to add here, is I'm just going to put in add spell schools from the world of Eventide. Yeah. That's kind of the coolest thing I get to build here for the remaster. So, that should be really nifty. Do some fun stuff with that. Yeah, I'll be updating the tags and everything as well. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of it, though, right? I mean, looking at the stuff that I have here, most of the rest of it's pretty straightforward. There's obviously going to be some work that needs to happen in the spells themselves, right? You know, if I get down here into some of these spells, there's going to have to be some work done here. Some of these spells don't quite work the same way anymore and are going to need work. But it's not that onerous, to be honest. So the remaster work for Eventide, here's the long and the short of it, everybody. It's not that bad. It's not going to take me all that long. So, folks, here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to get you the remastered Gloamling by next week. That's the first thing I'm going to promise. You're going to get the remastered Orc version of the Gloamling in 1 week's time. All right. I'm going to go ahead and close. Let me go ahead and save that. Save that. Save that as well. All right. Let me get back to center here. So there you go. That's what I got. So we're getting back to work. I don't have my playtest group scheduled to get back and up and running just yet. And with Thanksgiving next week, I think I'm going to punt till December, or maybe the very end of November. I have to look at a calendar. But I think that's about where we're at right now. So things are coming together. Things are starting to spin back up a little slowly. Obviously, I'm still unpacking. I'm still working on another giant freelance project. I still have a million other things to do. But this is one of them. So, folks, I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging out. Oh, we got a good crowd tonight, 8 folks. That's really good. Folks, I want to thank you for coming by. Thank you for hanging out. I hope you do pick up that remaster. It drops tomorrow. Make sure to pay attention to Paizo's social media. We'll be talking all about it tomorrow. You'll hear more about it there. Obviously, this is just where we talk Eventide stuff. So, folks, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening. Tune into my main stream here in about 10 minutes over on Twitch. I'm going to try and play some more Baldur's Gate 3, assuming the damn game's finally updated. Last week, I had an hour-long update that totally scuttled my stream, and I ended up playing Marvel Snap the entire time. So, hopefully we won't do that this week. So, tune in over there. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.